The more things change, the more they stay the same. That's why we take the initiative to see how games will turn out in the video game market. We look at them, we analyze them, we follow up on them, and then we learn from them. This time, we follow up on the games we looked at between January and March of 2014 to see how they evolved, the new content, the community, the problems with the games, and if they were addressed or not. Have they improved with time, or have they become worse? As always, this is not a review of these games, but a look at how they evolved over the past few months. Strike Vector feels like a game that takes the lessons learned from Strike Suit Zero and Star Fox and builds upon it to create a game that satisfies those who desire multiplayer space combat action. But this is all the game offers. It caters to one niche in the market. I got bored of the game within a couple hours, but everything in the game seemed okay. It just felt like something I've played many times before. I was expecting some new content by this time, mainly maps, and 5 new maps have been added since release. That's great, but despite the fact that it's running the Unreal 3 engine, it doesn't have any modding going on, official or unofficial. As for the community, I've only checked a few times the past few days, and maybe I'm checking at the wrong times, but every time I check, there's only one server active with around 4 to 5 players. On the Steam forums, people have made an attempt to organize community events every weekend, Happy Friday, Happy Saturday, or Happy Sunday, depending on the day. It worked out for them for a few weeks, then people stopped showing up. I was expecting this game to have a niche community, but I guess I was wrong. I'd say the game is dead. Even the most devoted fans will get tired of the game eventually. Perhaps the lack of official modding support prevented the game from going further, or maybe its boring gameplay crippled it right from the start. The tools were there to foster growth of the community, but it seems the game needed something more, and it simply didn't have it. Since Titanfall was largely neglected in terms of features, community, and competitive gaming, I believe the primary goal of the game was to push the Xbox One. They had their sights on the casual Call of Duty crowd, the ones who would buy the game for $60 at launch, buy some DLC, and then let it gather dust on the shelf. Looking back at the last few months, it did a damn good job of that. First, let's talk about Australia. There were Titanfall servers online in Sydney a few days after the game launched. This is not the official Azure service, since that's still planned to go online at the end of 2014. It's an ad hoc solution specifically for Titanfall in Australia, probably in response to the backlash they got for having no servers in the region, so there's no way anyone could have predicted this. This is good news for Australian players, at least for the first month. Based on the comments and forum posts I've been reading, there have been many reports of sporadic lag and problems with matchmaking. The player base has gone way down, either because they got bored of the game, or they're frustrated with the Australian server, so it seems the players who do continue to play are playing on the West US server. So they're back to square one, and on that note, the player base in general is low, not just in Australia. It's appealing to the casual market, so anyone who has interest in competition or longevity of a game will not be involved in Titanfall. And let's talk about the multiplayer cheats, or hacks as they're commonly called. I said the aim assist feature would make it easier to cheat and harder to detect, since aimbots would simply trick the game into using this legitimate feature. I guess this is an exaggeration because they really don't need to. They can cheat, straight up. And as long as they don't make it too obvious, they'll never be caught. There's an article on PCGamesN.com that describes one of the best cheats for the game, a highly customizable, subscription-based tool that's hosted online. None of this code is stored on your PC, but you have access to ESP, aimbots, and all the options that determine when and where these cheats will work. And because it's online, updates can be quickly made available to subscribers. All for £10 a month. British ingenuity at work here. The obvious solution to this problem is to have Titanfall run on community-run dedicated servers and have the community police itself. But we all know this will never happen. It's really not surprising that the game turned out the way it did. The DLC is just map packs, each of which include 3 maps. That was expected. There was one report that said the game helped to sell an additional 1 million Xbox Ones, so it did its job. But the game itself is really not worth getting at this point anymore. It's only going to get worse from here. Banished has that addictive quality to it that other city-building games have, and it offers a good challenge. It's multi-threaded, and it was made by a single person. It was a good game before, and it's still a good game, but not too much better than it was before. The few bugs that the game had were fixed, however, no new content has been added. The good news is, the game will be getting mod support. It was never built with modding capabilities at the start, so the addition of this feature will be slow and steady, but for the time being, nothing much has changed. Games like this are never as big as the games in other genres, but they never really die off either as long as it's good enough. I'm still a little disappointed that there's no combat, seeing as how you're building a town in the middle of nowhere, but despite that, it's still worth buying, and I'm looking forward to seeing what the mods can do for the game. The Thief reboot had the potential to be better than the original Thief games. The technological limitations of the 90s are gone, but there's still a lot of really silly things that are holding it back. Things that shouldn't have been here in the first place, like the problems with positional audio, the shallow mechanics, and the not-so-stealthy action sequences. The audio problems have been fixed, after 4 patches. They took their sweet time, but they did it. And they fixed a few other bugs, but the problems with the game is still the game itself. Everyone on the dev team had different ideas on what the game should be, and this resulted in the shallow mechanics. Gameplay is limited so that a story can be told, and a patch will never fix this. But let's not go too far into this discussion. Square Enix reported a healthy profit for this game. No breakdown of the sales by platform, but I would guess much of the sales are for the PS4 and Xbox One since there's very few games out for the consoles and people want something to play on them, so they got lucky, but they destroyed the reputation of the Thief series in the process. If you're a Thief fan, go and replay any of the previous games or play the Dark mod. It's standalone, it's free, and it's made by the fans. These are the games I looked at between January and March of 2014. Next time, we'll follow up on the games between April and June of 2014. Thanks for watching.